All right, I think that's the end of people coming in, looks like, so we can go ahead and get started. I actually have been having everyone introducing themselves, but I'm actually going to take over and do that this time because I made a mistake on this first slide. So uh, welcome to the last migration workshop for 14.0. My name's Adam Mixter. I am the developer support manager. I am joined by Dan Gritters from the Rapid Response team and actually Yi Heng, who is representing QA today. So let's go ahead and get started here. We don't actually have any updates for developer migration guide, so we're going to instead just talk about what we already have talked about, just because I don't have anything better to talk about anyway. So if you missed the workshop on the 27th, we talked about there's a change to distance ranges where they can return distances instead of objects under certain conditions. So that should actually be happening all the time now, not just some cases. So that's near on my slide. If you go between 14.0 and 13.5, you may end up having to delete a particular file in your workspace to get things working. You can find that file in the lazy folder. So if that does happen to you, there's a delete. There's a path that you want to delete the file from. If you do have some trouble and you're not sure what's going on, you can always feel free to reach out to developer support on that one. On the third, we talked about the new block category. That category is basically added to all blocks in all spaces. So if you have a block, it will now be labeled with block category. That's allowed for allowance of an old visual bug to end. What that might impact is if you have anything that actually deals with visibility, you might want to consider that there's a new block category that exists. And last time we talked about a couple of typos and we removed some updates that actually didn't make it into 14.0, were slated to at the time that they were written, but they just didn't actually make the cut in the end. So then I'm going to hand it over to QA.
Hello. Okay, so I'm Yi Heng. So I will bring you some updates. So it's the same for QAs. We don't have new updates on the testing guide for this week's migration workshop. So we'll bring you the recaps that we have talked about on our previous workshop. So on the first one, we talked about the pay-per-view tag color legends. So this is about that, where if you have the show only contour lines for 2D checked in the earlier version, which is a 13.5 or earlier, in your color text legend, it will not show the color. It will become a white box. Yeah, so this is fixed. So right now, even if you turn on the show only contour line, it will not affect your color text legend. Yeah. And on our second workshop on the 3rd April, we talked about the improvements of working with the blocks, filter, and categories. So this affects switching on or off the filters in a block. So last time, if you hide something in the block, it will hide the whole block together. So right now this is fixed and it will only hide the correct component or symbol in the block itself. Yeah, so this one cover broad changes across the model space and also the paper space. So to ensure the visibility preference works in all these areas. Yeah, and on last week workshop, we talked about a crash when exporting configurative in the reconfiguration tool. Yeah, so this is fixed, and the crash was caused by a missing references. Yeah, so causing some information loss, hence causing the crash. So this one is fixed on the latest latest beta. So yeah, so right now what you need to do is to verify that it no longer crash in your reconfiguration tool and also in the bill of material when you are exporting your article view into configurative. Yeah, and also the latest all these three updates have been updated in our QA testing guide in the Help Center. So do check that out. Yeah, thank you.
Sweet, thanks, Hearn. Next up, Dan's gonna give us some updates.
I'm gonna double check my mic working good. My headset disconnected. Okay. So for known issues, we've had quite a bit come in the past week. We had our regression testing starting, and I'm happy to say most of the tickets are, in progress or resolved. But some of the ones that haven't been picked up yet are ones related to performance, specifically save load. We still have to verify whether or not it was QA's computer or if multiple people are seeing it. So there's a couple of regression performance issues that we're going to look into yet to verify them. But that's thankfully pretty much it. That hasn't been started to look into of the things that have come in. Next slide, please. Some of the resolved issues from the past week. Fixed a bug where the drawing was crashing when you create alternatives. View all mode wasn't playing well with blocks. Sometimes blocks were supposed to be showing up and they weren't showing up, and other times they weren't supposed to be showing up and they were. So bugs around that were fixed this past week. Another person was stuck trying to publish catalogs. That's been resolved. This compile error in code. If you do end up getting something like this, you're going to want to reach out to dev support, because you may have to change a compile all below function parameter for it, but that's resolved as well. And then clearing transfer logs that get too large, that's been in the works for a while, but it's finally through now. So transfer logs, when they get to, it was a couple megabytes, should get cleared now, since it's useless information once it gets that big, a lot of the older stuff. But that's it for resolved issues. And then the ones that are still in progress, data in the project info tabs isn't saving. We have a guy working on that. And then another guy is looking at some of the CAD 3D models are rendering as black. And that is it from the rapid response update.
Sweet. Thanks, Dan. Alrighty. Just one last reminder, if somehow you got all the way to today and you didn't know, the developer migration guides have moved to the migration website, which is at migration.configure.com. Today is the day that we release the RC. You'll see that note of that in the developer briefcase if you're checking that out on my Configura. Also, migration sign-offs start today. The release sign-off deadline for migration stuff is on May 1st, and then May 15th is the major release. I'll give everybody just a few more seconds if you do have a question that popped up at the last minute, and otherwise we're gonna call this one quits. All right, everybody, thank you very much for coming, and I guess we'll see you in 14.5.